This week on Line Go Down, have you noticed your favorite Dungeons & Dragons channels aren't pulling in the same numbers they used to? But really, has anyone observed a decrease in views? Because this alleged doom for the genre of D&D YouTube, aka DungeonTube, was the subject of a recent, ironically very popular video from my friend, Professor DM of Dungeoncraft. But I don't think the downward trend is quite as universal as he made it out to be. And I'm going to show you a bunch of views data from multiple DungeonTubers that tells a slightly different story. And the main reason I'm making this video is not to call out Professor. Again, we're buds, please be nice. It's actually that I had planned for months to not upload any videos in these final 3 weeks of 2025, and I was just gonna make a community post or something to announce that. But since those posts don't reach as many people, and now the biggest D&D news story literally 1 week before my hiatus was about Dungeon Tubers dropping like flies, I felt like I should make an extra video anyway to reach more people and, heck, while I'm at it, clarify some points. So this graph, JK, this graph, shows my monthly views from 2023 to now. It's a website called Social Blade, where anyone can search for any YouTube channel's data, and we'll use it to look at a few other channels indicated in Professor's video. Like any good data set, it's a little weird. What's this incredible spike of views? That's the start of 2024 when I uploaded my infamous potion drinking short that, for no apparent reason, absolutely dwarfed everything I made before it, and will probably do the same for everything I will ever make. But between that potion spike and the D&D OGL bump in early 2023, my average monthly views hangs around 300,000 to maybe 500,000. And if we look at the last half of 2025, summer was actually a little bit better, but this fall has been about the same, maybe a little worse. However, this fall felt a lot worse. I was nervous for a while there, because you may have heard some hubbub around September where the YouTube algorithm allegedly was counting views differently because of how a change in ad blockers worked, and yeah, that did happen. But it happened at the same time that 2 annual views changes occur. Back to school, when suddenly every student and parent is more busy, and the beginning of a Q4 holiday advertising season, baby. When every social media platform does have a kind of reset that no one really understands. All that meant my views on new videos were roughly cut in half from the summer. Way more extreme of a drop than previous back to schools for me, and this was stressful because Grace World Destroyer and I had just started making moves hoping to buy a house. More on that at the end of the video. But looking back at this data, I guess my backlog of videos was able to help fill the gaps, and I did notice that some new videos from this fall had a longer tail, where they eventually did reach a normal or almost normal view count, but it took a few weeks instead of a few days, and I need you to remember that for later as well. Now, let's look briefly at the other, much more popular D&D channels who I was honored to share Professor's thumbnails with, like D&D Shorts. This views data looks insane because YouTube Shorts are insane, ranging from about 3.5 to over 7 million views. And hey, what's this huge decrease in 2025? Is this the doom for all of DungeonTube? No, Will made some changes to his channel and production, and I'm not going to cover everything here because he has videos about it on his own channel, but the point is, we can't actually use this one to extrapolate any trends for 2025. Now, Ginny D's views data is like the inverse of mine because she has this huge drop where she must have deleted 1 or more YouTube shorts, totaling a whopping 11 million views gone. But if we look at her post-YouTube Shorts era in 2024, she got around 1 million, maybe 1.5 to 2 million views every month. And in 2025, she had a lower spring, only a couple 100,000, but then a big summer, almost 3 million views, and kind of leveling back to the 2024 numbers at the end of the year. Last creator on that thumbnail, XP to level 3, might have the weirdest data with these huge peaks and troughs back and forth for months and months, and then kind of evening out over this year. Though, evening out roughly at the level of those troughs from previous years. So maybe this is indicative of the highs today not being as high as the highs of 2023 and 2024. But if we look at one more creator, Pointy Hat, the other top D&D creator not featured on Professor's thumbnail, well, That's probably because his views are evening out, but trending upward, literally the opposite of what we were looking for here, right? Also, congrats to Antonio for recently hitting 500,000 subscribers. That's awesome. And before we look at the professor's data, I want you to think about what you just saw. Wait, but actually think about and remember something I saw in a YouTube video? So Pointy Hat, a channel that started only 4 years ago, has blown past the subs and views of almost every other D&D channel because he's raising the bar. Sure, we've all got some fun ideas to make your game more fun, but if you can express those ideas and be a great artist, and be a great video editor, and have great comedic timing, and have a great mustache, and appeal to game masters as well as players, and probably 7 other skills I'm not even aware of, that creator is going to reach a much, much wider audience than the classic person sitting in front of a bookshelf. So yes, the competition has increased wildly over just the last few years, but I can't help but think that's good for all of us. We creators are forced to stretch and make more entertaining videos, or we're forced to focus more closely on our own communities, or to focus on more specific RPG topics that can't easily be covered by a creator who aims for mass appeal. And all of those outcomes are great for viewers. Plus, creators like me and Professor now benefit because in addition to Critical Role, Dimension 20, Ginny, Jacob, and Will, we got one more long-form D&D creator who is talented enough and hardworking enough to cast a wide net on YouTube, drawing more people into the TTRPG hobby and making them more likely to click on an objectively less entertaining D&D video from me. Or Professor. And just kidding. Video for video, I'm pretty sure Professor is definitely more witty than I am. But here we go, the case study that is probably not interesting to anyone except me or Professor, and I know you're watching, so let's just do this. Your graph is very similar to mine, roughly between 300,000 and around 500,000 views every month for the last several years. But wait a minute. In this summer and fall, there is actually a decrease here, realizing the decrease in views that I felt and that many, many other creators felt or realized to varying degrees during this same period. So what other differences between our channels might be causing this result? I have 2 ideas. One, my mostly millennial audience probably has fewer parents in it. So I think you're hit a little bit harder by back to school. However, I think the next point is way more significant. Where most D&D creators focus on a combination of comedy and advice for players and GMs, you've been covering a lot more news. And you're absolutely correct that news videos have a higher ceiling than topics like crafting and even advice, but those news videos are dependent on immediate clicks because they get old immediately. If a viewer doesn't have time to watch a news video, they're gonna get the gist from a headline on Reddit in a couple seconds. And Professor, you mentioned that your backlog doesn't get as many views as it used to. Part of that is definitely YouTube getting worse at recommending old content, but part of that is your backlog consisting of an increasing amount of news content that is no longer relevant to a viewer today. Like I said earlier, a bunch of my fall uploads were bad, but some managed to pick up because the topic was still at least kinda interesting after the first few days, even if it was less interesting than a news topic overall in those first few days. And a little more evidence of news being the problem here, let's look at Dungeons in Discourse, another sensational RPG news channel showing the exact same drop-off as Dungeon Craft from summer and fall, things going down, and maybe a little increase here in November actually. And we see the same thing on more neutral RPG news sources like Sly Flourish, decreasing from the spring into the summer into the fall, and even the Eldritch Lorecast, which had a big spike in the spring here, but the overall trend still shows this decrease from spring, summer, fall. And this brings us to the real bottom line for news content. If there's no interesting news happening, you're cooked. The surge of D&D popularity, from the initial run of Stranger Things, then Critical Role, then the pandemic, then the OGL, then the movie, then Baldur's Gate 3, and most recently, the 2024 Rules Update, all provided season after season of exciting RPG news topics to explore. But for now, that's over. We are in a lull, and it's unclear whether or not Stranger Things 5 or the new D&D Warlock video game will save us. But I think that makes this time a good time to focus on topics that might at least last a couple weeks on YouTube, like advice, like comedy, and maybe even crafting. Yeah, one other specific thing I want to highlight from Professor's video was the discussion of this Frankenstein campaign diary video, not getting really that many views compared to his other recent content. But if we look at the original Frankenstein campaign diary, the views are in about the same ballpark, much lower than the surrounding videos about advice and even some about crafting, because those videos either were more popular at the time or because they've had 8 years to build up those numbers, because those topics have not really aged. But I'm saying specifically for that campaign diary, it's not like people don't want to watch that kind of content anymore. It's that even when we look at the old version of it, the audience was never there for that subgenre of D&D content. Now, you make another great point that crafting videos today are at the mercy of 3D printing videos, a whole new sub-genre of D&D content. But I think that just kind of proves the point. DungeonTube is not dying, and in some ways, like the campaign diary, it's not even changing. People still don't want to watch that. But the bar for a great advice video is way higher than it used to be. And speaking for myself, seeing the writing on the wall for how I cannot compete with the wide appeal viewership of newer content creators, I'm trying to take that nervous energy and steer it toward the books I've been trying to write for years but haven't had time because videos were doing well. And this is why I'm taking a bit of a risk and pausing uploads for a couple weeks. So yes, my next book is a smaller, more focused zine project, fully written by me, laid out by me, and not all, but some artwork by me. Check this out. I'm super proud of this piece, featuring a couple of the rare mushrooms that have interesting properties in the dungeon of this zine, but it took me like at least half the time it would take to make an entire video just to draw this one picture. So that project will be officially announced around mid-January, though I have released a tiny preview on my second YouTube channel, and for patrons, and to my email subscribers, aka the subscribers who actually receive the content they subscribe to. So consider joining my email list through the link below for very rare updates on that and other work. It is not bi-weekly spam. But the first video you'll see from me in January is super exciting because I get to be part of a charity project that is also the greatest opportunity ever for you to check out a fantasy RPG that I've hyped for years. So mark your calendar for January's first Tuesday, 1/6/2026. And lastly, Grace World Destroyer and I did just buy a house. Yikes. We closed a little later this week. It's a tiny place, but there is so much to do. Like, it needs a new roof as soon as possible, and it's already snowy outside, so I doubt we can get that done before spring. Fingers crossed, no big snow this winter. And between house stuff and writing and holidays and scripting that first January video already, this break from uploading will be a very busy time for me. And to clarify that I'm talking to all viewers again here, I am so grateful for your support through every change in DungeonTube over the years, because Grace and I would not have been able to save up for a house without this. Being a YouTuber was never in my wildest dreams, but the house is a genuine dream come true thanks to you. So Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and keep building.